Larry Groce here, mountainstage.org is where you can hear the show if it's not on your public radio station. And today we're very happy that we captured these guys, the Fruit Bats. We have Eric Johnson here, who is the man around whom the band has revolved. You've had some changes in personnel, but you have always been at the center.
Yes.
And songwriting and singing and
Definitely.
doing all that.
Yeah.
So, well, tell me then, how did the Fruit Bats get started? This is, by the way, the Ruminant Band is your third album on Sub Pop?
It's the third on Sub Pop, fourth overall.
Fourth overall.
Yeah.
So that's the latest one. And they're on tour as we talk in October of 2010. You're in the middle of the tour, beginning or
Actually,
end?
pretty much at the very beginning. This is our third date of the tour, so.
How long are you going out for?
It's about 3 weeks, and this is our last tour, actually, of the Ruminant Band cycle. So we're like, you know, we've been touring for about a year. Obviously not straight, but this is the beginning of the home stretch.
Well, I mean, he says obviously not because he's also in the Shin. So and other members of the group are also play with other people.
Yeah.
So it can't be a year-round project, but it is one that's been around for a good while since you've made 4 albums. So anyway, back to the question: how did it get started?
It was sort of one of those things that sort of an unambitious 4-track project when I was pretty young, and it was even the name sort of came out of an unambitious joke. You know, like I thought it sounded like a funny punk band name or something. Yeah, and then but people liked it. Some friends of mine who had a record label in Chicago liked it enough to say let's actually like make something out of this. And then so I made an actual record, which was very unexpected because I'd always been a sideman, and then it just kind of rolled from there. It's always been a very slow, gradual process with the Fruit Bats, sort of a weird life project.
So what year was that when it began?
I mean, when I was doing this 4-track stuff, this is 1996, 1997.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, and really 10 years as a sort of a proper, real project from sort of the conceptual stage started, you know, years before that.
And you were teaching at the Old Town
School of Folk Music, yeah.
Yeah, what were you teaching, guitar?
I was teaching guitar and banjo, and it was sort of a huge part of coming from that universe that sort of informed the Fruit Bats in a lot of ways.
Well, you won't lose a beat if you just keep clapping your hands. Like sweet, sweet Peter clap for the Ruminant Band. Had a bit of tongue and a broken love. Said they learn in the warm wet fields on the moon and under sun. On the moon and under sun.
Now you live in Portland, but you grew up in Chicago, started doing there, and that's where you started the band, and then things developed.
Yeah, exactly. But I was kind of like an indie rock kid, but I liked the Grateful Dead, but then I got into the folk world a little bit by accident, just because it was like a cool place to work. But I learned clawhammer banjo and all this, so yeah, it was just sort of that's kind of how it got started.
You know, it's funny how many young people have come to Ralph Stanley through the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You have to. Yeah, there's lots of interesting left turns you can take.
But that's well, I talked about that with Yonder Mountain String Band one time. I said, hey, whether you get there through listening to Flatt and Scruggs or through the Grateful Dead doesn't make any difference.
Yeah, you can get to the blues deep cuts through Led Zeppelin.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so that's what pop music sort of did, especially like at some point when it's just a big stew at this point. So.
Well, they call it the roots, and that's a good deal. So
Exactly.
so in a way, this is like a folk rock band, in a way.
It is, and I always thought that term was strange too,
Yeah.
because I'm like, if you really listen to folk music, that's like, you know, Harry Smith's Anthology or something. That doesn't sound anything like us. We're probably more like the late period Birds or something like that. By
Which was
way
a
of
folk
that.
rock band, according to the industry.
Exactly, yeah. We're sort of by way of that, but of course we have like a huge reverence and respect for all the way back, and yeah.
Well, 4 albums with the Fruit Bats, this being the latest one. And how did it work out then? How did the Shins come into the picture?
They were old friends. We actually, both bands kind of started off at the same time, and we were sort of friends like at the point zero, you know, that sort of ground zero for both of those bands, and had sort of become, we were just peers, and we both liked each other's music and even had toured together, Fruit Bats and Shins, and this was before I was involved with them in a musical capacity. I was just their friend, and yeah, just a few years back, James just invited me along. So it's a pretty casual relationship. I mean, and the Shins operates a lot like the Fruit Bats too, in that it's very much James, and it's been a little bit of a floating cast of characters with that too. So yeah, I mean, I always just say it's a really good day job to have.
Well, the place where I was born is a vague memory. And it's like the flakes in the snows of the broke-down TV. It could be in a big city or in a beautiful day. With the red cone silo or the broken church bell.
The group that's going to be on Mountain Stage today, how long have all you guys actually been playing as the Fruit Bats?
This has been about 2 years with these guys, which is actually, of 10 years of touring, they're the longest and steadiest lineup that I've had, I think it's sort of the quintessential lineup, even though it's 10 years in, or 8 years in, when I got together with them.
Yeah.
But
Won't be able to hear everything because obviously on Mountain Stage you only have a sample, because I know I was talking to your guitar player and he also plays steel, but he won't be able to set that up because
Yeah.
you're only doing 4 songs, so there's no reason to set up everything you have. Like
Yeah.
if you go to in concert, you would be able to see the whole deal. But well, you're not going to be able now. See you in concert for a while because
Well,
this is the last.
starting on a new record, so we'll be back out on the road, with the first half of next year. So
When you record, do you come into the studio with all the songs written, or how does it work?
yes and no. Occasionally I'll get a flash of inspiration and write something on the spot, which is the song "When You Love Somebody," which is sort of like proven to be probably the most popular song I've ever done. Was a totally last minute. It's a 2.5 minute song or something, and I wrote it in 2.5 minutes, and of course it's probably the most popular song I've ever written.
There's been a few good ones written that way.
Yeah. So, and then some of them that take me a year to write, they're like people,
Yeah.
I've never played it again kind of thing. So, yeah, it's hard to say, but usually, yeah, I'd say half and half.
And so then do you, with the band, do they contribute a lot to the way it's put together, or do you tell them what you want?
Certainly on this last record, I actually really just kind of took my hands off the steering wheel a lot of times, which was fun. And I sort of put the band together in that way of people who I sort of knew could either read my mind or add something that I knew was going to be in my wheelhouse anyway, because it's actually kind of nice to hand something over and see how somebody else interprets it. So
Let the band be a band, kind of.
yeah, because I had the previous records had been a lot more me and sort of playing everything and almost more like a solo project. This is definitely the most band-like.
One weird warm night, you sneak in my room and kill me, and you flood out my lungs on a breeze. Yeah, miss your mind, you say. I was all in the world that I had. That's sweet honey, you say.
The name of the record, The Ruminant. How'd that name come about, Ruminant Band?
I loved the word. Ruminant is a cud-chewing animal, like a cow or goat, but also, to ruminate, to think about something.
Cogitate.
Yeah, it's sort of a funny, weird double meaning, I thought.
It's a good one. What's your website?
Fruitbatsmusic.com.
Go there, go to mountainstage.org to hear their contribution to today's show. Great to have you guys here. I'm glad you could work it in on your tour.
Happy to be here.
It was great, our pleasure.
Yeah, thanks.